welcome to the Top Order podcast. This week in cricket time again, we're going to talk IPL. The top four look locked in, but the race is heating up again. Another week of high scores, some Kiwi highlights from a batting perspective as well. We'll also talk some other Kiwi batting highlights. Mark Chapman in the historic T20 series. We'll also have a conversation about franchise contracts and is it the end of the 100? All coming up on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. So boys, I think we've got to start, haven't we, with the IPL this week. So top four size locked in, do we think? I guess is a bit of a question mark. Another week of high scores and some batting to talk about, particularly Jaiswal, Conway, and also some form from our English and Australian cousins as well. Lippy, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk Devon Conway to start with. You must be pretty pumped with where he's sitting on that runs chart.
I mean, honestly, just roll back what we said last week. The guy's just unbelievable. I mean, he did have one bad game in there. It's sort of Rajasthan trying to chase down, or CSK trying to chase down a score, 200. I think he got 8 off 16 balls. That's his one glitch, I think, in this whole IPL. I think, put some numbers together. He's got 5 50s in this 2023 edition. I think that makes it 8 50s and 17 IPL bats.
Yeah,
pretty good conversion rate. I just don't really know what more you can say about the guy. He's just unbelievable at the moment.
Is it fair to say he's carrying CSK from a batting perspective? I know they've had some good performances with the bat, but I think he's probably performed even as good as he is out of his skin in this tournament. He's had a really, really good tournament. And CSK have now, as we record, they're 5-4. And I think he's probably directly responsible for 4 out of those 5 wins, if I'm just looking at it from an outsider's perspective. Is that too long a bow to draw?
Yeah, yes and no.
Same as last week. He's the best in the world across all 3 formats. Maybe.
Look, he's been very, very good this pretty much this entire tournament. He's scoring 50s and big 50s, going deep into the innings. I think that he is actually probably the best form in the tournament. There are other performances and performers around the IPL who are going well, but you can't look past him. He's elite.
No, I do think it sells CSK short to just put it all on Conway, though. We talked about Rahane, what he's been doing. Gaikwad. I think they actually have. I mean, as again, keep talking about Dubé and thinking that he wasn't very good. He's contributing a lot this season. So yeah,
Spande's he's the leading wicket taker, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah. So I do think they're actually putting a team together. Moeen Ali's in there doing a few little things as well. So yeah, they're actually contributing.
As well. We talked jokingly about it last week, didn't we? What role is he going to play? He's still kind of coming in and just really putting the icing on the cake in terms of those innings. Is there anyone better to go from ball one than him? If we're going to kind of carry on with this hyperbole around who's the best in the business, they have kind of got a number of players firing, haven't they, in that side, which is probably why they're probably the 4th cab on the rank at the moment. But I guess if we look at that, Gujarat top of the table, 12 points. They've also got a game on everybody else at the moment as well as we record this on
and it's
Tuesday
against Delhi
night.
too.
We've got Rajasthan, then the Super Giants, and then the Chennai. Super Kings, indeed. Everyone's super, aren't they? But they're all on 10 as well.
So are RCB.
Now RCB.
And so are Punjab at this point.
And so are Punjab. And then we've got the Mumbai Indians as well, who are on 8. And they've also got a game on the teams that are slightly ahead of them. So when we talk about that, we talk about momentum a hell of a lot throughout the course of this tournament. I want to ask a question about Conway before we probably come on to the teams. If he finishes now, if he kind of goes horribly out of form, has he still had a good tournament? 5 50s?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, if they fall away and he struggles, you're sitting there thinking, oh, well, things are not... He's not had a great tournament, but now he's got the opportunity to have a great tournament. You're going to look at this list that he's, put together in terms of his scores and go 500 runs. Even if he stopped now, he'd probably get to 500.
Yeah, if he didn't play another game for whatever reason, he's had an excellent tournament.
Yeah.
So if he plays 4 games and doesn't get any runs, then that kind of counts against him a bit. But if he stopped now, if he went on to international duty and then didn't play another game, he's had a superlative tournament.
Yeah.
Enough for me to create hot takes about him, which I don't normally do.
Can we come back to that top 4 though? Because I do I've recorded a tweet that I sent out on the 29th of April. I don't even know what day it is today, but basically said
2nd of May.
Top 4 are all on 10 points. with positive net run rates, playing like playoff teams, should we just lock in the semi-finalists now? And then the whole week has just thrown all of that out of the window. And then, over the weekend, Punjab beats CSK, Mumbai comes from the clouds, beats Rajasthan. Like, everyone is starting to beat everyone again, and it all was hotting up. And none other than Virat Kohli last night, things are heating up, certainly.
Yeah, look, it's difficult, isn't it? We come in with hot takes every single week, don't we? I think what I've kind of written down from this week is Rajasthan, their middle order really not firing. So, the likes of Josh Butler has got going a little bit. Sanju Samson's got going on occasion, but they've not really been able to piece things together through that middle order engine room. We then look at a team like Mumbai, who I think are really starting to, find a little bit of form in terms of piecing together. And look, this isn't just about, my view on this, but I know what I said, I think last week or the week before, was they seemed like a team of individuals that weren't really piecing together those performances in the middle order. They've now kind of fired a couple of times. Tim David coming good finally.
Sky looked outrageous.
Sky looking great. David was, I think, 45 off 14 balls or something, a strike rate of 320 to put the icing on the cake in their game. And then the other takeaway I've got, we've talked a bit about Conway, but Jaiswal has been going really, really well. But three guys, Jaiswal, Conway and Mitch Marsh, all, according to Quick Info, man of the match in their respective games when their teams have lost the game. So Jaiswal obviously getting that 100, Conway 92 off 52, and then Mitch Marsh gets 63 and 4-fer, which you can't really argue with as a man of the match performance in a T20, but all ending up on the wrong side of the ledger from a wins perspective. So it's been a cracking week.
Yeah, Mitch Marsh obviously listens to the pod or watches the pod on YouTube after Raj fired him up as, what was he? Cameron Green was a better version of Mitch Marsh, and Mitch Marsh has turned up.
It's a good take from you because it fired up 2 Australians, so I'm very happy with that. Well done from you, Raj.
But he looked very good.
Well, we might. I feel like we might stay on the Australians, right?
Sure, why not?
Because the Australians, it has been a very good week for them. We've seen, the Tim David one. Look, so they needed 19 coming into that last over. Probably not the best 3 balls I've ever, or 17 I think it was to defend, because that makes more sense. Jason Holder, probably not the best 3 balls he's ever bowled. 3 fullies. But Tim David just dealt with them, hit them miles out of the park. They needed 17 off the over. You're thinking, okay, this is going to be tight. Tim David does it in 3 balls. It's like that. It's the kind of innings that actually makes you think, okay, maybe this guy is worth it, because it's not really what he's done. I think he did it maybe once last IPL, and we sort of criticised him really for all the big money that they've paid him. But you look at that and you go, okay, like that, he has won us that game. That is 2 points that is essentially almost Tim David.
Yeah. And if you're going to pay guys big money, Dre Russ, Kyron Pollard, players of that nature who are explosive, they have to win you at least one game in a tournament like this off their own bat. Now that it's longer and it's 72 games, they probably have to win 3 or 4.
2 or 3 games.
Yeah, 2 or 3 games off their own bat. So that's one for Tim David. He owes Mumbai Indians probably one more. But that middle order, as you've said, has performed admirably since we gave them a serve when they were going not very well.
He's got to be difficult to bowl at as well. That tall, and I think you're obviously trying to find that length. And I guess if you do go that little bit too full, a guy that's 6'23" or something like that.
Very tall. I don't know if he's that tall.
He's going to be able to get
underneath the ball.
Under the ball.
Long levers and such at him.
Yeah, and Jason Holder long levers as well. But,
yep.
On the battle of the levers, yeah, he left.
So just rounding out the bottom of the table, have you drawn a line through any of these teams so far?
I had drawn a line through Delhi. Well, I had drawn a line through Delhi, and then they went 2 on the trot. But they're still 2 and 6, so I think we can safely have a line drawn through Delhi. Watch them go on a big rampage. Sunrisers, Stu, KKR, Adam?
Yeah, look, Bordy, you can look at my paper here, and I've written out of it against three teams. So Delhi, I think, let's actually lock that in. We can say that they are absolutely gone burger.
Cool. They're going to go on a tear next week. Great.
Sunrisers, I think they're gone burger. I can't say KKR are gone burger just because I'm going to stick to the guns. I've picked them every single IPL. They're going to get through to the semi-final, so I can't write them off. But it's going to be pretty tough for them to get into the mix, I think.
Yeah, well, they need to win 5 to finish at 8 or 6.
I think those bottom 3 are probably a line through them, but it's really all to fight for the top 7, though.
Well, Baldy, what did you say to me before? Harry Brooks watched his 100 quite a few times, you said?
He has. Well, that's where he said that. I've watched my 100 25 times or so.
Yeah, it's just not working out for him, is it? I think
Probably when he should have been batting in the
Batting in the
games.
net, or playing in the nets, maybe.
maybe. I think my Harry Brook is a much better upgrade than Kane Williamson comment at the start of the IPL preview has come back to bite me.
Let's touch on that for a second, though. They're asking a lot of Harry Brook in that cricket team. Like they're asking him at the first time of going to the IPL as a young fella who doesn't normally play on Indian wickets to bat at the top of the order and score all their runs. That's a big ask for a young player. I mean, we saw how good he was here in New Zealand against New Zealand.
He started off down the order though. He started off batting at 4 or 5
Yeah,
at the start of the
and
tournament.
they've got guys that are naturally more predisposed to batting at the top of the order, but I think Sunrisers have taken either a long-term view or have taken a punt on youth to say, well, we're going to stick him at the top and he's going to come off for us 3 times and score big scores. He's scored 1 so far in 9 games. Okay, that's probably less than he would have liked, maybe that the fans would have liked, but you know, you've either got to put him at 5 or 6 and go, we want you to finish games, or we put him at the top of the order, and you've either way, you're asking a lot of a young kid, and I think we just have to be a little bit patient with him and give him a couple of years in this role to see if he actually works out or not.
What do you think they do? Do you think they take him out of the firing line, or do you think they go, this guy's going to come good, he's done it over, all right, a relatively short period of time in international cricket, but he's found a way in Test cricket, he's found a way in T20 cricket, and also ODI cricket as well. Does he play to the end of the tournament, or do you think they, particularly where they are in the table at the moment, it's a slim chance that they're going to kind of make it through? Are they already thinking about next year? I mean, you would have the scoop, you know, having co-writes to the song.
Well, yeah. Look, I actually think back to what Mumbai did with Tim David last year, and I kind of had similar thoughts about him. Like, is it time to just give up on this experiment? We paid a lot of money for him, get some other guys on the side. I mean, they were also doing the same, I suppose, with DeWalt Brevis, who they had kind of picked up when, you know, not that many people in the world, well, I'm sure outside of South Africa, South Africa didn't know a huge amount about him and gave him a lot of opportunities. But with David, they stuck with him, and actually near the end of the tournament, he started to get some form. Maybe that gave him some confidence that he can do this. I think what you say, in that if they're thinking about next year, you just play him. I mean, I do wonder why they're not. Like, personally, selfishly, I want Phillips to get a shot there. I don't, but I just don't see how they do it, because if they're going to keep picking Brook, if Aiden Markram's your captain, if Klaasen's your keeper, then
and scoring runs.
Yeah, then you're starting
and
to
Marco
run out
Jansson's in their team a lot.
Starting to run out of options. So yeah, I just think, why not stick with Harry Brook as a young player? They want him to get the confidence and feel good, and yeah, they've got nothing to lose.
We said last week, no way back in for Quinton de Kock. LSG posting, I think, would be the top scorer in the tournament this year, 257. Arman Mayers is going still at the top.
Some of those sixes, he honestly, one of them that he hit that went up. You know the one I'm talking about. Obviously, listeners can't see what I'm picturing in my head, but it went about 300 meters up, didn't it?
Yeah,
it was just amazing. Yeah, some of those shots that he was playing, awesome.
Yeah, and Paran as well, still in form. So that question. Still the same? Tough luck, Quinton?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. But, you know, we talked about their 200 million that they scored, but they played RCB in their last game out and got rolled for 108, chasing 126, which probably tells you 2 things. One, it's a bit of a rocks and diamonds type of engagement that the LSG are giving us at the moment, and also that wicket's probably not the best wicket for batting.
RCB didn't score runs either.
Yeah, so they scored 126 in their full allotment of 20 overs too, mind you. Faf du Plessis is top scorer in that game, 44.
We got to stay on RCB. Raj is our, foremost RCB Virat Kohli correspondent. Run us through what happened after that game.
Well, it actually started before that game, before the end of that game. Started in 16th, 17th over. There was a bit of words exchanged between Kohli and it was Naveen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh huck, there was a little bit. I don't know what the words were. The umpires got involved. There was a lot of gesticulating,
discussion on what they were going to have dinner.
I don't know what they were discussing, but it didn't seem very friendly. And then obviously the game petered out to a finish. KL Rahul, I don't know if you saw him come in the last about over and a half. It was very painful to watch. But yeah, they're walking off. They're going, they're handshaking, and then it sort of just kicked off in the line. Virat Kohli and Naveen had some words with each other, and then had to be separated by Maxwell. And then later on down the line, Kyle Mayers and Virat Kohli had a couple of words, but that looked a little bit more, while still grumpy, it was a bit more civil.
Kohli probably looked at Mayers and thought, "Oh, this is the wrong guy to be having an argument with," didn't he?
And then Gautam Gambhir took him away, and Gambhir and Kohli, who obviously they have a bit of a history, got into it. It's just at the end of the day, I think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. It's been made a lot of on social media and in the media, but. Yeah, what do you guys think? Those who saw it or have just heard about it for the first time?
I've heard about it for the first time. What was the outcome of said altercation?
So obviously everyone was separated, went their way, and there was some financial penalties. Virat and Gambhir lost their full match fee, and Naveen lost half of it.
Yeah, half or 25% or something. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a little while since we've seen Virat that fired up, hasn't it? I actually quite like it, and I think it's a little bit like the whole David Warner scenario when he turned into. What was it, the Reverend or something like that? And he was just completely uncharacteristic.
We're telling the story.
So I actually like to see a little bit of fired up Virat Kohli, as long as it's not against England. I think it's good, and it's good for the tournament. It's not good for the tournament, but it adds that level of interest in that talking point.
Yeah, well, he's been fined for bringing the tournament to disrepute or whatever it is.
Yes,
so.
but it sells newspapers, Lippy, and it gets people talking about it, and it gets people watching the highlights.
He was seriously fired up because I ended up watching, stumbling across RCB's social media after-match thing that they did, and even on there was a little clip that said Virat's in the background, like clearly, and they showed it. This is doctored stuff that they can show you.
Curated
content.
It's not doctored.
No,
it's genuine content.
Yes, genuine content. There you go. Thank you for clarifying that.
That's right.
But he what did he say? He said something like, if you can't give it out, or if you can't take it, don't give it out.
Fair enough.
So it meant a lot.
I tell you what, Kohli loves to give it out, but he also doesn't mind copying it.
He said
at the other end. It makes him a better cricketer. Yeah.
He knows he's going to. We've talked a lot of batting.
Hold on, sorry, just a couple of points on that. And I do think that while it's a bit of a storm in the teacup, it probably is not a great look for cricket or the tournament. In the handshakes, doing that when you're playing the game, fine, do whatever you want. But when the game's over, the game's over. You shake hands, you go your other way, or go your own way. But the two problems there. One was Faf. He was wearing a shirt. During the, if he had been there without a shirt, with a towel on, he would have been able to separate. But,
okay, I see what you're getting there. Okay,
that's the first problem.
He was too much clothing.
Second problem is we're not actually talking about the important parts of that game, and one of the big ones is a massive end of a little known player, Josh Hazlewood. His entrance back into the IPL was it one for 15?
I think he got a couple.
Two 15 from 3 overs. That is actually massive,
huge
for RCB. Siraj has basically been on his own this whole tournament. RCB's not having trouble scoring runs generally. It's their bowling that are letting them down. So it's a massive ad.
Yeah, and I was going to just move on to bowlers, and Siraj, nice segue. He's carried that attack. Interesting to see 3 seamers at the top of the charts from a wickets perspective. Deshpande 17 wickets, Siraj 15 at 7.
Yeah, he's
in
been
terms
amazing.
of an economy rate, which is absolutely sensational. He's been carrying that attack, and then Arshdeep as well, who we've talked a little bit about.
And Shami and
Shami's
Mark Wood,
fifth, I think. Mark Wood's there. We still see that that group of spinners. So Lippy and Gordy, please don't fret. We've got Rashid Khan, we've got Chawla, we've got Ravi Jadeja, and obviously Ashwin. Interesting, you mentioned the faff in the towel. I saw a brilliant piece of social media that's got a bit of a sandpaper.
Brilliant.
Yeah, a bit of a sandpaper sort of reference to it. Cameron Bancroft playing a bit of county cricket at the moment.
Yep.
3 young fans have got him to pose with an Australian flag, and one of them spied a piece of sandpaper over one of the stars, which I just thought was excellent trolling for some young lad down at Somerset.
Well done.
Where else do we want to go in terms of this this IPL before we move on to some international cricket? Any other highlights that we want to talk about?
Well, I think some of those ins and outs actually from that. Well, maybe this game is that you just touched on. Hazlewood coming in is big, but I think the KL Rahul thing is going to be really interesting because
he's not coming back, is he, this tournament?
It doesn't seem so, and that might rule him out of World Test Championship final. I don't know. Obviously scans and all this kind of stuff is coming in soon, so we'll find out a bit more. But I think Unadkat has injured himself to look really disappointing in the nets, and then I think Umesh Yadav is injured as well. So like you talk about Arshdeep and Mohammad Siraj, Shami, all these guys, with Bumrah already out. Like some of this IPL stuff
Could have a big impact on the
yeah,
WCC,
exactly. And, we'll talk about that a bit closer to the time. But, yeah, KL Rahul going out, if that happens and he's out for this tournament, we're finally going to get the answer to all this question, right, of what kind of impact he does have. He would have been perfect, I think, in that chase if he could have been, for that low score, he would have been exactly the right kind of person to just bat through that innings and win them the game, you would think. It didn't happen, and LSG is now that side that is sitting there thinking, okay, well, we were in quite a nice spot. Now we've got teams like RCB, teams like Punjab, Mumbai, all kind of coming at us for that fourth spot. So, yeah, very interesting week ahead.
Yeah, and look, we're obviously trying to create plenty of interest week on week in terms of the movement in the table. Is this week now really moving week? We've talked about all these teams on 10 points, a couple of teams that Gujarat and Mumbai Indians we said have got a game in hand, so that kind of almost probably takes them one way or the other if they kind of win those games in hand. Is this moving week coming up? Do you think the conversation next week we're going to have some more surety over this Final Four?
I did look at the fixture list, and yeah, we do have some big games. LSG plays CSK. CSK also plays Mumbai. Mumbai's got a game against Punjab. Gujarat plays our Rajasthan and LSG as well. So a lot of those teams are playing each other. We sort of say it every week, but a week is a long time in the IPL. That table can change a lot, and all it takes is a couple of those teams to win both of their games and another, LSG or CSK or whatever to lose those games, and suddenly it just all flips on its head.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for LSG, isn't it? I mean, they've lost already 3 out of their last 5 games. They've gone loss, win, loss, win, loss. A couple of losses on the bounce now with Rahul out, and they would slide very, very quickly down towards the bottom end of that table, which is the wrong end to be in, Adam.
Always. And on that note, let's move on. Look, I'll just admit to you boys, I've got 2 pages of notes here. This is my IPL page of notes. I'm actually fizzed to talk about what's going on in the sort of franchise world and the news that's come out about the 100. So I've got a page on the 100.
Wow.
It's underlined and all.
And it's underlined as well. But I'm really, really keen to hear your views. I got a text from one of my mates back in England over the course of the last week who just said, Chapman, serious player, ? And I'm guessing it's no question mark for you boys. But what have you been impressed with, and what are your takeaways from this series? Pakistan obviously won both games, but is it all doom and gloom for Black Caps fans?
Well, I think there's a few things to touch on there. So, I mean, last time we recorded, we were giving Chapman a lot of praise. He'd already done a lot of really good things in that T20 series. I think there'd been 4 games. Obviously, that one had been rained out, but we hadn't had the 5th game. And that was kind of when he just stamped his authority on that series and actually made it a historic series. He scored 290 runs from 5 games, only dismissed once. Highest ever total from a 5-match T20 series for a batter. 100 in that final game to draw that T20 series 2-2. And I think you text me, you were watching it the next day, and sort of text me, I think, what was it? It was about 4 or 5 overs to go, and you were like, I hope they have to win from here. But it was a tricky total to chase, 190 odd. We'd lost a few wickets early on, but in the end, they made it look really, really easy, him and Jimmy Neesham. And Neesham, it was exactly the kind of innings that we'd asked for on that podcast. We'd said, look, you need to play an innings of consequence. Comes out, delivers, scores that 50. So, yeah, amazing stuff from Chapman.
Neesham looks so good when he just swings through the line.
Yeah.
He needs to. Whenever you see him get out, it's him just fishing at the ball or something like that. Have a swing, Jimmy, and he did really well.
That's exactly what happened, and we were watching it live in Auckland when we watched the New Zealand Sri Lanka T20. Had that game in hand, well in hand, James Neesham. That ground is way too small for him. Most grounds are, but that ground in particular is way too small for him when he hits straight. And he played a dinky little reverse sweep off the last ball of an over where he'd already taken 14, I think, off that over. You're right. When he hits straight and hits through the line of the ball, as dangerous a cricketer as there is in world cricket. Keep doing it, Jimmy, from Wellington.
I am still struggling to actually take things away from the series with so many people being away from the Black Cap side in particular. Obviously, just drawing that T20 series is actually, I think, a real win, especially from where we were at the start of that series. It shows a bit of growth, and the pitch has got a lot better, I think, for our style of cricket towards the end there. The one-dayers, I find it very hard to judge how we have actually played, because those batting performances with maybe more of our frontline bowlers, I think would have been kept in hand.
Yeah.
We've batted really well. We've seen the return of Will Young, his 86 at the top of the order. We don't know who they're going to plan to open with at the 50 over World Cup, whether he's in the mix, he must be. And Daryl Mitchell as well, scoring 200s, batting at 3, has been really impressive. But then I have the Raj Reddy Player of the Week, Fakhar Zaman.
It's been
Incredible batting from him in Pakistan. Not to take anything away from them, but yeah, he's batted really well.
He scored 300 runs. For listeners who aren't watching the scorecards, he scored 117 and 180 not out in the first 2 ODIs against New Zealand.
And I think that's 300s on the bounce. Like, he'd scored 100 in his last ODI before this. So, yeah.
I
Probably
think,
deserves his Mumbai Cement Player of the Match.
Yeah, look,
Player of the Week.
I think, to your point though, Raj, it is that bowling, and Matt Henry, we talked him up a hell of a lot last week, and I think from an economy perspective, it's gone okay, but maybe it's just lacking a little bit of that cutting edge, obviously with no Bolt, no Saudi, and then Jimmy Neesham isn't really a third seamer, is he? He's probably a fourth seamer. And then you've got, I know you're going to give me stick for this, but you've got Ratchin coming in, and he's probably your third spinner. I don't think he's a second spinner to Ish.
And I think he's actually a bit of a problem bowling in tandem or bowling with as a second spinner to Ish as well. Ish bowls a lot better with Mitchell Santner just holding up one end, and Ish can really go in there and start being aggressive and taking wickets. I feel like Ratchin's not that style of bowler, the Santner type of bowler, and I think he has struggled a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what it shows is that those guys, the Neeshams, the Ravindras, even Daryl Mitchell, in a T20 you can get away with that because you can actually bowl one bad ball and over, and you go for 9 or you go for 10, and it's not a disaster. In an ODI, if you have to bowl 6 overs and you go for 7s and 8s and 9s and you're bowling one boundary ball and over, it's actually a problem. And look, I mean, to be fair to Neesham, in the ODI that he played, he had a couple. Zaman was dropped, I think, twice off his bowling. Like he actually bowled reasonably well, I thought, and did. We had chances to win that game and put ourselves in a position to win. But I think what it shows is that if Neesham, Bracewell, Ravindra, whoever's in the mix for those ODI World Cup all-rounder spots, I don't think any of them are going to have to be. We can't rely on any of them to bowl 10 overs, and that might, probably skipping ahead to some of the conversations we'll have about what the series actually means. I think what it means is that if we want to play those all-rounders, then we probably need to have 2 of them in the side.
We need to have 7 bowlers then. Effectively, what you're saying is your 5th, 6th, 7th, or your
Well,
fifth,
I think you can
your
get
fifth
away
lot
with
of 10
6.
overs needs to have 2, maybe even 3 bowlers bowling that 10 over lot.
I
Right?
think it means if Neesham's going to play, he has to bat 6, and Bracewell and Neesham have to play together. If they are going to, I think almost if one of them is going to play, or I think if they're going to play, they have to both play together almost in a way. Is how I sort of put together that side. I know unless you're going to rely on Phillips to bowl 4 or 5 overs and Mitchell, and maybe they will, but yeah, I think that all of those guys together makes up your 10. I don't see any of them putting 10 overs together on the bounce, and maybe we'll see the odd performance. We saw Colin de Grandhomme bowl 10 overs in the World Cup final. Like, some of these things do happen. Someone bowls well and it happens, but it's
the fascinating thing about the 50 over format, isn't it? And why, I know we've talked a hell of a lot about how it's relevant in the modern game now. We want to see the World Cups, obviously, but it is that, it is having to bowl more overs, whereas, yes, in T20 you can get away with someone burgling an over or 2, but a lot more difficult to try and get someone to burgle 10 overs or 7 overs.
Yep.
Has Kane Williamson's replacement just been hiding right in front of us? What do we think?
I mean, Mitchell, honestly, I have no idea if this was the plan all along. Like,
he's got the little run down to third man in the locker as well, hasn't he? He's almost, I don't know whether he's taken some time to spend with Kane and learn that from him.
He's just been New Zealand's Mr. Fix-It for what, 2 years now. I ran some numbers on what he's actually done. He's averaging 57 in tests, 45 in ODIs, 26 in T20s.
Is he the best all-format player in the
Well, Conway's test numbers aren't quite as good as Mitchell. But look, 800s and 1050s in tests and ODIs, and that's only from 41 games in those 2 formats. So that's, he's putting a 50-plus score in half his games. He comes in and bats 7 in Test cricket. He comes in and bats 3. Like, he's just, he opened in the T20 World Cup. I don't know. We're running out of praise for him as well, and it's starting to feel real. Like that England Test series, I think, when we were over there, and obviously things didn't go well for New Zealand in general, but Blundell and Mitchell kind of just continually put partnerships together, and since then he's just been on a roll, and it hasn't really stopped.
You mentioned Blundell there really briefly. Thoughts on Latham when you've got Blundell potentially better keeper? I would hazard. We were talking about how good he was as a Test match keeper. Raj, you want to come in on this?
Well, it goes back to the argument where what is a keeper? Is a keeper just a
we're gonna have that argument again.
a roadblock with gloves? But you can't leave Latham out of the side, and if he can keep, it's a bonus. He's just batting so well. That 100 he scored.
Not suggesting leaving him out of the side, but it's is there a way to squeeze in a guy like Blundell?
I just think with Conway, with the likes of Conway, the likes of Latham is capable of doing a good enough job with the gloves. Okay. To include another batsman of note.
Or another all-rounder.
And I think Blundell is going to have to earn his spot as show that he can contribute enough with the bat. And that's why I think the selections in this series have been really interesting. Like you're saying, we don't know what to take of this. I don't necessarily take a lot from the actual performance. More like these are the people that the selectors are giving the opportunity to. And I mean, what did you make of them, changing their mind, I guess, and putting Chapman in that squad? Like he wasn't in that original ODI squad. They've picked him, and then they've given him. They've actually not just said, "Hey, Chappie, like, okay, great job. We'll see you later. Well played. Have a safe flight home." They've actually said, stick around for this ODI series.
They've had to pay to change his flights as well, haven't they? It's a serious financial commitment.
When they've actually picked him as well.
Yeah.
It's not like they've said stick around and then don't just watch.
Yeah, look, I think it's brilliant. Raj, you'll come in, but I think we see too much of this pre-planning, and so and so's going to bowl 17 overs and 4 balls in the nets, and mix the Gatorade on the second Tuesday of every month, and then we don't have that flexibility. So I think it's awesome to see that kind of real positive decision making and going, do you know what, this guy's earned his right. And I think we're going to see more of it across 3 formats. When you don't have heaps of time to get into series, it's going to have to go on form in the game that you're playing. And hopefully as well, what that will lead to is players not picking and choosing when they're going to play, because they're going to know that their place could be in danger if they don't play and be selected for their country when they're available.
Yeah, I was really happy to see it. I think in the past, that would have just been he would have been allowed to go home. They wouldn't have stopped and changed plans. And I really like the fact that they did that, because he deserved a go after his brilliant performance in the T20s. Sorry, did you want to say? The next question I have is, we're talking about all these people who are not currently at this series. They're off in the IPL. Like Glenn Phillips is one of the main ones for me. Will Young and Daryl Mitchell probably can't play in the same side if we have Glenn Phillips and we have Jimmy Neesham batting at 6. But I know you're a massive fan of, you've got your Will Young stock. He scored runs in the first ODI. If you had to pick one of those two, Mitchell and Will Young, after the numbers you've just rattled off.
Oh, I mean, I think Mitchell's a lock in the side. I think Phillips is a lock in the side. I think Conway's a lock in the side, and so is Latham. So there's 4 of your top 6 already. And I think what this series is showing, and sort of the New Zealand batters are showing, that it's giving them the opportunity to actually just pick the best 6 batters, or maybe best combination of players, because I think number 6 might have to bowl a few overs as well. But if Young, Finn Allen, all these kind of Jimmy Neesham, all these guys, they're going to have to be flexible, and basically, you said, has our number 3 been sitting in wait? Maybe the fact that if that is the case and Mitchell goes up to 3, maybe that does leave an opportunity for Chapman or someone like that to get picked. And yes, then Chapman comes in. We're actually not looking for a number 3 like we all thought we were. We're looking for someone to come in and bat 5 or 6, finish an innings, and then maybe that means Will Young gets squeezed out. I do think Young he's got to put more than this one performance. It's on the board. I mean, I think I said it last week. The ODI format is much better. He's much better suited to that. I don't think T20 is really his game. He struggles a little bit to kind of hit boundaries from ball 1. So I think the fact that the ODI format, he can kind of play his way in, do the Kane Williamson kind of role where you can work around singles and do all of that kind of stuff. He actually probably soaks up too many dot balls if you're going to be really, really critical of Young, but that gives him the opportunity to do that. But actually, do we want that? If Mitchell can come in and bat 3, maybe actually what we're looking for is a Chapman, a Neesham, all these other guys who are on this fringe of the squad, and maybe Will Young gets squeezed out that way.
Yeah, I think partly it's about the personnel that you've got available, and it's not replace Kane like for like. It's actually what does the shape of that side look like, and we talk about the way England play Test cricket now. They're not picking a Rory Burns or a Dom Sibley. They're going, do you know what? We've got 5 or 6 guys who could just want to come in and bash the shit out of it. let's just go with that. And I'm not saying that that's Mitchell, but he's definitely
very positive though.
But he's very positive. He's not. It's not a like for like replacement for Kane. It's hey, this is a combination that might moneyball us, into the runs that we need to put on the board.
What do you think about you guys talked about Blundell. I do think the fact that Chapman has been picked, that tells us a lot that he is now in the mix for that squad, because Blundell, who we all thought, I think, going over there, oh wow, Blundell's in this ODI squad. Now he's going to go over there and get an opportunity. I actually thought it would be at the top of the order, but they're picking Chad Bowes ahead of him. So, and Bowes is starting to show a little, starting to get more comfortable, I think, at international level. These pitches are certainly looking quite comfortable to bat on, but is at least, playing some really nice shots and playing his way into form. So, yeah, I just think that we're learning who is in the pecking order and who are in these opportunities. And I don't know what that means for Finn Allen. Raj and I were driving to the Warriors game, Warriors playing Roosters. Couldn't really talk about the rugby league because of the friction, but that conversation would have. So we already had this conversation a little bit. But Finn Allen just doesn't. He's not getting a game at the IPL. There's not that many games for him to play. You might know. We'll get onto the 100 in a minute. Whether he's still got a 100 gig or whether he's in the Vitality Blast. I'm sure there'll be some cricket for him, but I don't know. It started to make me think, is his spot actually in danger at all?
It's a long time to be on the bench when the IPL is 700 games long and you're not getting a go. I think that he is still him and Conway are the number one partnership at the top of the order. But when there are series going on and the New Zealand team is playing, it always feels like you can lose your spot fairly quickly. But what about? Does it say where he is?
I've been throwing that as a little bit of I'm going to need to look through quite a significant amount of people to see if Finn Allen's there. It is a nice segue, though, into probably that sort of franchise world. I'm just being asked to create a free BBC account, which I won't do. But we've thrown it out in the Slack channel. Franchise contracts, the talk of T20 leagues taking over world cricket. It's not going to go away. We've been talking about it a hell of a lot. There's been some press around the 100 already on the way out, so I think that the story broke in the Guardian newspaper. Some talk around whether or not, from a monetary perspective, it's already apparently made at best case a £9 million loss. Be interested to get your views. As I said, I've got a page or so of notes. I'll find out the Finn Allen information for you. But Lippy, your kind of thoughts on that?
This feels a bit early to be giving up, doesn't it? That's the one thought I have about this. They've invested so much. I think I saw an article that they've before this went out, they kind of trademarked the 100. I don't know if it was the format or the name or whatever it was in New Zealand and Australia and in all of these other countries. I guess with their expectation that this was going to be something. This was going to be a format that people might like and people might continue with, and sort of. Instead of everyone going to the IPL, but this would actually be a thing.
Yeah.
For it to be over, if potentially in 2 or 3 years' time, just seems very quick.
Also, if that is true, I feel like it's a little bit short-sighted with the travel restrictions, the COVID world we've been living in during the time they've been trying to get it up and running. I've always said, I love innovation in cricket. It's something different, not too different, but it is something different, and it's bringing the best players in the world together. Seems like a winning formula to me.
It feels like the 100 for women's cricket has been particularly successful in terms of all the best players are playing the tournament. It's getting great coverage. There's lots of crossover between the men's and women's team in terms of cross promotion and the way that they go about their business and so forth. So I feel like from a women's cricket perspective, it's been really successful, at least in terms of generating interest and getting the best player. All the things that I would measure it against, other than the commercial outcomes, it's been incredibly successful. It almost achieved its goal without trying, not without trying, but without having played a game, in that it got people talking about cricket again in England. It got people talking about short format cricket, which I think it was flying under the radar a bit, particularly with its players not being exposed to the IPL up until very recently. Like, I feel like the 100 has popularised cricket for an audience that English cricket fans, and please forgive me, all fans of county cricket that don't agree with me, that English cricket needed. It needed to find a little bit of an extra audience, in addition to the die-hard, nailed-on 18 counties cricket supporters that would go and watch their county play a four-day game.
Well, and I'll throw it to you, Binks, because you've got the better perspective of this. But, obviously, if it falls to bits here and you lose that financial, all the forget the money aspect of it. If it did that, and then something turns into the 18 sides with promotion, relegation, or whatever they're sort of starting to talk about, but it's reinvigorated that conversation, maybe at a huge financial cost, it could actually be a positive, even if it sort of goes down in flames.
Yeah, so I'll answer the most important question first. So Finn Allen did get picked up. He's a £50,000 contract for the Southern Braves. So
Okay.
he may well play against with Jofra Archer, Tim David, Devon Conway as well.
Oh, very nice.
In that side.
How many
as well.
overseas players are allowed?
Good question. Yeah, so
Hopefully it's 3, and then he'll
We're
make
going
it
to
in.
talk for another 5 minutes while you find out this answer.
Go and look that up. Look, I just want to probably counter one of Baldy's points on the white ball cricket, and it wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't counter one of Baldy's points. I think the 2019 World Cup win was probably a better catalyst for reinvigoration of English cricket from a white ball perspective. I think that the point that you make around the women's piece, though, is really important. The 100, in my view, has done its job. It's been that catalyst for some of the change that was probably required. It's been brilliant for the women's game, but I think I'd also say I think that would have happened anyway. We've got obviously the WPL going on now. The Women's Big Bash has been very, very successful. And then we've also seen, I think, international women's cricket over the course of the last probably 18 months or so just be really, really top quality. So I wonder whether that would have already happened. The thing for me is really the politics behind this. So there's a lot of marketing people involved in this. They've gone out and really bet the farm on, we are arrogant enough to think that we can change a successful format and create a franchise league that we then think we might be able to spin off. It's like kind of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Let's sell it all around the world. We might need to change the currency slightly or something like that, because we don't want to be playing $1 million lira. But yeah, ultimately I think there is a little bit of that marketing piece, and I think what will come out is how that has intersected with the county game and with the 18 first-class counties. I think I want to know whether it was always the plan that this might be a little bit of a disposable product in order to actually get a franchise tournament into English cricket. I've banged on about this before. We were playing T20 cricket under lights in 2003. We were the first country in the world to do it, but we're the last real country that that's probably got the wherewithal to create a franchise league, to have created one. Obviously the SA20 league has been pretty successful for them, I think. Come along at a similar sort of time. If COVID hadn't happened, I think it would have launched before the 100. But ultimately what I think now is there isn't a need for a different format. T20 is the format. We've stopped talking about the fact that an IPL game takes 4 hours. It's a 4-hour entertainment product, just like a game of American football or whatever. People enjoy going to it, and if you really want to watch it in 3 hours, then sit on your fast forward button and get through the Rupe on the go moments and the bowlers run ups. But I think to Baldy's point, ultimately the friction is going to come with those 18 counties. We can't sustain an 18 county T20 competition that is going to be anywhere near the draw card that an IPL or an SA20 or a Caribbean Premier League or even a Big Bash is going to be, because the standard will be diluted too much. So I think we have to have a franchise tournament. The simple thing to do is just call it the 120 and be done with it, and then there's your answer.
Very good. 120.
Well, and
How long did you take to write that 120?
I don't think I put that on there. I think that just came out as off the cuff.
We haven't really talked about contracting. I think that was a big part of it as well.
It was. So, I don't know. The Times in the UK broke this story that apparently, and I don't think they've named the players, but I think that the report was that there'd been 6 England players at the IPL who'd been approached by IPL franchises to see whether or not they would essentially play as guns for hire for, I'm guessing, the Mumbai Indians in the Dubai or United Arab Emirates League, as well as for the Mumbai Indians, etc.
US League.
You would have thought that conversation's going on with Cricket Australia contracted players as well.
I think I did see that some South African players have been approached, so it must be happening, right?
My question is though, so this is where, and I said this in the Slack channel, really, and really want to get your boys' view on this. The BCCI owns the IPL, right? So are they having that? Presumably, they can have that conversation, and it's easier for them to do. Does that create an even bigger monopoly for India in terms of international cricket? If they're going, well, hold on a second, we've got a really great franchise tournament. We can now control other nations' ability to earn big amounts of money, and that's only going to benefit, India in terms of international cricket, which, I don't know, to borrow some Shakespeare, it seems a bit rotten in Denmark, doesn't it?
I mean, you're right in the fact that it's like, I mean, are we going to see are we going to see the fact that all these Indian these franchises that have originated in the IPL, like, are we going to start seeing some Indian players playing in Mumbai and in the Mumbai Indians, Cape Town or whatever they're called, and Dubai and all these other leagues? Is that going to happen, do you think?
Look, if I were to put my Nostradamus hat on and look forward...
Did he wear a hat?
Yeah, I think so. It was very pointy. If I was to look forward, 30 years into the future in cricket, I think that cricket could resemble the English Premier League in a way. It's all franchise based with 4, 5, 6 international windows during the year where they play, international games.
Oh, a little treat for our video listeners.
So, yeah, for those listening on Spotify, Bordy's just come back with a pointy hat. It's almost as if that was planned. But Bordy,
it's a combination between the Tiger King and the Wicked Witch of the West.
Strangely enough, I have no prepared remarks. And what's even more unusual is I'd actually like to take some time to think about the implications of what's happening at the moment in world cricket. We forecast when we first started doing this show that a club versus country debate was coming and that cricket would be unprepared for it. Even having forecast that we were going to talk, that we knew this was coming 4 years ago when we first started doing this pod. Now that it's here, it actually really requires some thought, because there is a potential, as we've pointed out just now, for really, really deeply impactful bias to be built into the system, for some countries being part of the haves and some countries being part of the have-nots. And if that creates a really unfair structure, either financially or from an availability perspective, it could have a really dire impact for how international cricket is played and who is able to do that and make money out of it. So I think it really does need cricketing minds to come together and put aside their partisan allegiances to the nations in whom they represent and sit down at the ICC or some other body and say, look, what is actually best for the game of cricket here? Because there is a financial consideration, and the fact that India and the IPL make the vast majority of income happen for cricket globally is really important to consider. But the state of the game globally needs to be considered in that as well. And if the IPL, and then by the extension the BCCI, and then by extension the ICC, have control over player availability, and the only leagues that they are allowed to play in are affiliated with those structures, what does that say about the state of the game going forward? And I don't have a really good opinion on that yet, and I think it's really behoven on all of us who are fans of cricket to really think deeply about this and come up with a perspective based on an understanding of what needs to happen in the game. And I'm going to wear my hat until I come up with a decent perspective.
Well, Bordy, absolutely blown away by the hatted commentary that you've got there. I don't think any of us are actually going to be able to answer that question unless we talk for about another 6 hours or so. I'm sure it's a debate that's going to run and run. It'd be great to get comments in your listener feedback on what you think this sort of club versus country debate is going to bring to the game, particularly as we come into the climax of the IPL, a packed white ball schedule over the course of the next little while, and the Ashes going on as well. Not to mention the fact we've got a bilateral series happening at the same time as all of this, which seems really, really weird, particularly because no Pakistan player has yet played in the IPL as well, which is another thing I'm sure we can come on to. But please do dip back into the back catalogue. We will be back for more IPL action next week on the Top Order podcast. But if you do want to check in on any of our past episodes, news, views and cricketing interviews, please do dip into www.thetoporderpodcast.com. But for now, it's good night from us all here in Auckland. We'll see you soon. Good night.